Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wednesday night, April 14th edition of studentloanjustice.org. My name is Alan Collins. We are Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest, largest, and in many ways, only true citizens group actually fighting only and absolutely for the people. We don't do little side things. We don't try and con you into consolidating your loans. We don't do any of that nonsense. All we care about is getting student loan justice, and that has been true for the past 16 years. We've been featured. And by the way, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them out. I'm very happy to respond to you. For 16 years of our existence, we fought very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. Kind of a no-brainer. Founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws, ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army, and many things. And yet here we are 250, 60, 70 years later, and student loans are the only type of loan in this country to be uniquely stripped of this fundamental, bedrock, constitutional right. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you bankruptcy needs to be returned to all student loans, but at this late date, it is by all rational, reasonable metrics a failed lending system. More than failed. In fact, it's catastrophically failed. Like, subprime home mortgages were pretty much a failed lending system, right? 10 years ago, 13 years ago. Well, the default rate for subprime home mortgages was 18%. That's a lot. That's 1 in 5. People like Elizabeth Warren used to say, if more than 1 in 5 of some kind of toaster exploded, they would be pulled from the market, right? Well, here we have subprime home mortgages, 18%. That's nearly 1 in 5 exploding. Well, I'm here to tell you, folks, student loans, we already know that the default rate for 2004 students who were only borrowing a third of what's being borrowed today is 40%. That's more than twice, a lot more, well, significantly more than twice higher the default rate for subprime home mortgages. But guys, that was for 2004 students. They were only borrowing a third of what people are borrowing today. Of everybody walking around with student loans right now today, according to Wayne Johnson, who ran the federal student loan program under President Donald Trump, by the way, so he's no elitist liberal by any stretch. According to Wayne Johnson, even before this pandemic, 80% of all federal student loan borrowers were either unable to pay or they were paying and paying and paying some more, and their loan balances were going up. So I think it's probably something like a 65-15% split on that. So in other words, even before the pandemic, 65% of everyone was not even able to make payments. And another 15% or so, it may be 40-20, I don't know. But that was before the pandemic, guys. So, of everybody walking around with student loans today, my best estimate is that we're going to see, like even before the pandemic, we were going to be seeing a 75% default rate. So that is more than 4 times higher than the default rate for subprime home mortgages. So at what point are the people in Washington, D.C., who know everything that I just told you, they're aware of this. They're not stupid. They know more than us, as a matter of fact. But they know that for sure. At what point are they going to stand up and say, okay, all right, the jig is up. This lending system is done. It's toast. It just is. Well, I hope that that day comes very soon, folks. And we are making great efforts to make that happen right now here as we speak here at studentloanjustice.org. And by the way, if you have any questions or comments, if I can see them, I will gladly respond to them. Tonight, I want to do a little bit of a session about our opposition, the people that know this is a failed lending system, but yet still continue to fight and fight and fight, and this will only increase, mark my words, to keep this lending system alive and prospering, which means keeping it alive and destroying the lives and livelihoods of you, me, and nearly 45.4 million other people in this country. Let me just say one last thing on the 80%. if 80% of the people were never going to be able to repay their loans before the pandemic, it's probably 85 or 90 now. So at what point do even the bad guys finally give up this jig and acknowledge what everybody knows is true on the other side? Well, we have people like, for example, Beth Akers, who very well-funded expert. She was, for example, one of the expert witnesses at Elizabeth Warren's Senate hearing yesterday. And I've watched Beth in action for over 10 years now. I could, maybe not a book, but I could write a very long report about all the disgusting things that Beth Aker does. And by the way, she calls herself a conservative, which is ridiculous. She calls herself a conservative. She was like a fellow. She's with Manhattan Institute. I don't know even what they are, but she was at the American Enterprise Institute, which is a bastion of Beltway conservatism. There's a big difference between true conservatism and Beltway conservatism, because this Beth Akers, she claims to be conservative, but she is fighting for the worst, most reprehensible, unconstitutional, big government, college enriching, where conservatives supposedly don't like the colleges, right? But here we have Beth Akers fighting for the worst big government, college enriching, lending scam, unconstitutional, by the way. Most conservatives love to say that they're constitutionalists, in the history of this country. So, and you know, guys, the tide is turning. A year ago, we had some bankruptcy legislation to fight for, but like Joe Biden, for example, he shut me down on bankruptcy in open forum in front of 300 people. Well, we started this petition, change.org/cancel student loans, being a voice in basically the wilderness at that time. But here we are today, and student loan cancellation by executive order is the top of everybody's lips, including Joe Biden's. And by the way, Joe Biden adopted Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy agenda. And by the way, folks, we are a nonpartisan group. So we're going to say bad things about Joe Biden. And unfortunately, we have to say bad things about Elizabeth Warren. We have very bad things to say about people like Beth Akers, these fake conservatives. So get used to it. If you are a strong D or R, we're going to probably insult somebody that you like. And we have to, because we only tell the truth. So getting back to Beth Akers, here's the thing. People calling them conservatives like Beth Akers are not conservative. Now, look at, for example, Georgia, right? It's most would agree, by and large, year in, year out, a very red state. Like the fact that these Senate elections and the presidential election was even close in Georgia, that was surprising to a lot of people, myself included, and probably you if you follow that sort of thing. Well, they not only was that a close election, they won that election. Now, in that election, I'm sorry, but Donald Trump had nothing on student loans, nothing. Joe Biden was promising to extinguish the student loans of people who went to public college or HBCUs and earn less than $125,000 a year. Now, it turns out that he's now backsliding on what he said. It was just a ridiculous campaign promise. But nonetheless, when voters went to the polls in Georgia and around the country, quite frankly, if they had student loans and they were one of the 80% of student loan borrowers who were screwed on their loans, they were giving Biden a very hard look, even if they were sort of conservatives or independents. There's 2 million people in Georgia with student loans. About 1.9 million of them or something? 80%. So what's that? 1.8 of the 2 million student loan borrowers in Georgia were screwed on their loans going into that election. They didn't vote for Donald Trump. It was, a 10,000 vote margin. So, yeah. Student loans definitely made that election close in the first place, which was surprising, and definitely put it way, way, way over the top for Democrats. So here we have people like Beth Akers and other conservatives fighting against student loan cancellation, probably because Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, and other people on the left were championing it. But they are Republicans, by opposing student loan cancellation and opposing bankruptcy protections for student loans, also, by the way, they are blatantly violating their own conservative principles. This lending system is a big government, college enriching monstrosity. Conservatives don't like big government. True conservatives don't. True conservatives, at least a very large portion of true conservatives don't care for the colleges, right? Because in their words, they're indoctrinating our kids into socialism and all these bad things. So here we have the Republicans fighting against loan cancellation, the Democrats fighting for it, and it's just ridiculous. And I'm here to tell you that this is a very big problem for the conservatives. People like Beth Akers, claiming to be conservatives, trying to get people like Senator John Kennedy out of Louisiana to fight against loan cancellation, which he is. She is poison for that party. If conservatives ever want to win another statewide election in Georgia, for example, and by the way, Louisiana is not far behind. The state budget of Louisiana is, I think, $32 billion. Well, the people of Louisiana owe like $27 billion in student loan debt. So Louisiana is not much better than Georgia. This is only going to get worse for the Republicans as long as they stand for the swamp, for the lending system, and against their own citizens. And another thing, conservatives, I think most of them over a certain age. Hey, we have a comment here. Hey, Lydia Dominelli. We have to make our elected representatives advocate for our needs or vote them out. That's always been true. Bonnie says, now Biden is complaining about the college wanting to do trade schools. Not sure what you mean there, Bonnie. But let me take that first point, Lydia. Interestingly, the president, not Congress, is the person we need to appeal to get these loans canceled. Congress will never cancel student loans. They just won't. Congress has already passed income-based repayment, public service loan forgiveness, income-driven repayment, income contingent repayment, pay, repay, all these different loan cancellation programs. And 99% of the people are getting kicked out of them. Congress cannot really cancel these loans. And another thing, Congress has to pay for every dollar in loans that it wants to cancel, which is just nonsense. Taxpayers paid for these loans many years ago. They shouldn't have to pay twice. But according to the congressional rules, if you want to cancel everybody in the public service loan forgiveness program, you would have to raise probably $100 billion or more in taxes to do that. That's just not going to happen, guys. It's not going to happen. Even raising $550 million for the public service loan forgiveness program 2 years ago, that was a pretty major political lift. And that, I'm telling you, that's nothing. $500 million is nothing in the student loan universe. As a country, we owe $1,800 billion in student loan debt. So a $500 million that Congress very reluctantly passed 2 years ago, you really think that Congress is going to pass a $1.8 trillion bill to cancel student loans? No, it's not going to happen. It will never happen in today's politics. However, the president can cancel these loans without needing one dime, not one thin dime from Congress. Not one dime would need to be taken from the Treasury. And by the way, not one penny would be added to the national debt. We're throwing trillions of dollars in stimulus out in the country right now, including in the form of PPP loans, which don't need to be repaid, by the way. All those trillions of dollars that we've thrown out for COVID, that's all added to the national debt. Has it stimulated the economy? It probably has. I don't know. It probably has a little bit, certainly. But I'm telling you guys, there is no easier or cheaper way to stimulate the economy than to cancel student loans. And remember, it is a failed lending system in the first place. That $1.6 trillion that is owed to the federal government, they're never going to get that money back, and they never were. And quite frankly, they don't need to, because the amount of money that the federal government actually put out, it wasn't 1.8 or 1.76 trillion. It was probably closer to, I don't know, the amount of that 1.6 trillion that's outstanding. Maybe 250 billion of it is unpaid principal. And by the way, the government has been making a massive profit, not a loss, a profit on this lending system for the past 10 years running. So Joe Biden could cancel these loans tomorrow without adding a dime to the national debt, greatly, massively stimulating the economy. And the taxpayer, on balance, they could well be breaking even. It could be a wash because of the profits that they've been making over the past 10 years and the fact that it's air. That $1.8 trillion is air. It sounds good to say, right? But it's just ridiculous. It's fiat. Hey, Bonnie says, I am thinking we're going to have to do a complete collapse of Wall Street in about 3 years. That's an interesting thought. And then Lydia continues, then end the wars and cancel the loans. Well, let's hope not in that order, shall we? I don't think this lending system is going to survive the pandemic, guys. Nobody is paying right now, and nor should they. And if you think that many people are going to resume paying on their loans when the repayment suspension ends, you're wrong. That's not reality. The reality is very few people will ever make a payment again on their student loans. And they shouldn't. People should not be feeding this big government, college enriching, nation crushing, predatory, unconstitutional, did I say, lending program. Don't feed the beast. That's not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for the country. And it's not good for the tens or hundreds of millions of people who are going to follow in our footsteps. It's just not. It's not only is it unwise, because these loans, the lending system is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy. It just is. Nobody's paying right now. Nobody will pay. So it's unwise to pay, but it's also unpatriotic. You know, don't negotiate with terrorists. Don't give them what they want. Otherwise, they'll keep doing what they do. And, you know, to feed this beast of a lending system is just exactly the wrong thing to do. Very good, a very strong conservative, Grover Norquist, says, and this is probably trademarked, so sorry, Grover. He says, government should be small enough so that if you have to, you can take it to the bath and drown it in the tub. Well, I'm here to tell you that this federal student lending system is at the point where it needs to be taken to the bath and drowned in the tub. The loans need to be canceled. The lending system needs to be ended. And quite frankly, this is not a huge part of our agenda, but the colleges need to be put on a very major diet. There's no good reason for the colleges to be charging what they are charging for a college education. That's just nonsense, ridiculous. They've got more money than they know what to do with. They're shoving hundreds of billions of dollars into offshore accounts. They're building stupid, frilly, needless things that have nothing to do with the teaching and the learning. They are paying their presidents massive amounts of money while beggaring their adjuncts, I might add. That's another sort of side story that we don't take a strong stand on. But back to your point, Bonnie, I don't think we need we do not need a Wall Street collapse like what happened in the subprime home mortgage crisis. In fact, the interesting thing about student loans is that they are by and large 90% stovepiped off from the rest of the economy. When the subprime thing melted down, that did hurt the economy. Ton of houses fell in value. It upset a whole bunch of things. It set off a chain of events. Well, canceling student loans, 90% of it is held by the federal government. There's no Wall Street component there. There is still a not insignificant, but frankly not very big tranche of federally guaranteed and private student loans out there that are sliced and diced, bought and sold, much like subprime home mortgages, mortgage bundles, derivatives, securities, and stuff like that. But I think that's only like around $200 and something billion at this point. It's not much. So canceling these loans would not trip Wall Street up at all. In fact, I would bet, and this is completely coming out of the side of my neck, but I'm guesstimating that canceling these loans would probably lead to a rise in the Dow and other market ticker things, exchanges, probably like 10%, 15%, because people would have a ton of more money to spend. Instead of sending $500 or $1,000 or more a month to the government, they're spending that money in their local economies. Again, guys, I don't know why Republicans are against us and why Democrats are for us, or at least the Democrats say they are for us. But guys, I'm here to tell you both parties suck, guys. They just do. I don't have anything good. I don't have much good to say about even people like Elizabeth Warren right now who are calling for loan cancellation. This up to $50,000 thing they're calling for, it's a joke. It's a joke. By the time it gets through the Washington meat grinder, and by the time Joe Biden and his swamp minions have their way, that up to $50,000, yeah, that up to thing really comes into play. And pretty soon, it's not $50,000. It's this much, and then this much, and then this much. And pretty soon, it's pretty much nothing for anybody. That is what the people in Washington do. That is what the Department of Education has always done. So I'm thrilled, and we're pleased, and Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer, they deserve a lot of credit for taking that idea that kind of pretty much started with our petition in March, at least the public conversation, the national discourse. We are thrilled and pleased and appreciative that Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced that concept. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Embrace that concept. But having said that, we're not stupid. We don't trust Democrats or Republicans further than we can bowl them. The swamp, the bad people, which is the point of this whole entire live stream tonight, what they would love to do is a fake, nonsensical, sounds good, but actually is a nothing burger, loan cancellation. As long as they can keep bankruptcy and statutes of limitations and truth in lending laws and these other consumer protections away from student loans. They love their license to steal, and they want to keep their license to steal. They would like to push this dead man walking lending program down the road another few years, conquer and enslave 10, 20, 30 more million people. They would love to do that. And quite frankly, I suspect that maybe even some of the elitist liberals kind of like the social engineering aspects of student loan debt as well. Some very deep, dark people who have as much respect for the parties as we do, which is none at all. They'll use the parties for their own aims, and they could give two shits about any ideological underpinnings. But that's what the swamp wants, guys. They want to maybe pretend to cancel loans as long as they can keep bankruptcy gone. And that is the thing that really pisses me off about Elizabeth Warren and her hearing yesterday, where, among other people, Beth Akers was an expert witness. And she is, right now, she's top of the heap of swamp creatures. We have a wall of shame. Beth Akers right now is at the very tippy top of that wall. Look for her on Twitter. See the stuff I said about her on Twitter. Retweet that tweet that I sent. We need to come after her. I don't love the Republicans. I don't love the Democrats or hate them. But the Republicans are in deep trouble, guys, and we can help the Republicans. If the Republicans would embrace true conservative principles and fight with us, for us, against the swamp, against big government, and quite frankly, to the discredit of the college enriching of the colleges who are being enriched by this thing. We're not against the colleges necessarily, but we have no problem with maybe not defunding the colleges, but certainly putting the colleges on a diet. That really does need to happen. It's just ridiculous. Maybe the conservatives could win close elections like Georgia, but this thing is only going to get worse. And I don't see any way out of it for the Republicans. They've got to do the right thing. They've got to do the right thing. On that note, there is a thing that I published the other day, an article. You can find it. It's called "Conservatives Have a Major Student Loan Problem." You should find that article on Medium and send that to a conservative. We're trying to get the conservatives to come around, guys, and I'm telling you, the quickest way to solve this problem, the quickest way to get these loans canceled, are to get maybe one or two or maybe even three Republican governors to stand up and say, President Biden, cancel these loans. I'm Brian Kemp. I'm the governor of Georgia. We owe 169% of our state budget in federal and student loan debt. My state of Georgia, Brian Kemp should say, is being wrecked by this federal debt. It ain't going to happen on my watch. Mr. President, cancel these loans. If he does that, that will create a nationwide groundswell. Everything will change. And I can guarantee you that within a few months, Joe Biden will cancel those loans. And everybody will absolutely, undoubtedly stop paying on the loans, which also needs to happen. So get that article to a conservative. I don't think I have it posted here. Maybe I'll post it in the comments later. But it's on medium.com. The point of the article is that conservatives have a very major student loan problem. If they ever want to win states like Georgia again in a statewide election, they cannot do it with this student loan albatross around their neck. And with people like Beth Akers pushing them to the wrong side of this issue. Fake conservatives like Beth Akers. Hey, Lydia Dominelli says canceling student loans would be helpful. I'm not sure the government remembers how to be helpful. Yeah, the Department of Education, they abandoned even any pretense of actually caring about the student loan borrowers, the citizens who should be number one on their list of stakeholders, but we're not even on the list anymore. Bonnie says, we need more colleges. We need more college. There are too many stupid people in America. I don't know. I'm on the fence with that. I think a lot of jobs don't require degrees that do actually. I don't think maybe college is maybe a little overblown. And I think there's a lot of people who will never be smart, even if they make it through college. But that's just my personal opinion. End the wars, cancel the loans. Yeah, we threw $7 trillion into Afghanistan and Iraq. What did we get for that $7 trillion? Not sure. I myself went to Baghdad, by the way. I'm not a veteran, but I spent time in the Mideast in 2004 in Iraq. And I can tell you the amount of money that got pissed away in the desert is just enough to make you want to weep. Wince and weep. $7 trillion would pay off every nickel of student loan debt, and we'd still have 6 point something trillion left. I'll get the soap, Lydia says. I don't think we want to clean it. I think we just want to drown it. Just drown it in the tub and then bury it in the backyard. I think that's perfectly fine. We don't need. I don't think there is any cleaning the federal student loan system, guys. I think it is made out of dirt. So I don't think soap would be helpful. Bonnie says it is progress. Yeah, be careful what you say about progress, Bonnie. Right now, the Democrats are trying to, the establishment is trying to play a trick on us. We've got to be wise to it. Quite frankly, I would rather see bankruptcy protect. If I had to choose tomorrow what should happen, some up to $50,000 loan cancellation or returning bankruptcy protections to all student loans, hands down, I would choose returning bankruptcy protections to all student loans. Because only with bankruptcy protections in place can we actually have any confidence that whatever loan cancellation thing might happen, if it's not by executive order, that it would happen. Progress will be when Biden cancels all the loans. Progress would have been if on day one as president, Biden would have returned bankruptcy to federal student loans by executive order. He could have done that. Elizabeth Warren, to her great credit, said she was going to do that as president. Joe Biden said he was adopting her bankruptcy platform, and day one has come and gone, and Joe Biden at this point is looking like a bust. Hey, Heather Taylor says, I just tagged every single governor with their name, the hashtag of their state, the petition, and the article about, I assume you mean the article about how all these states that owe more than their state budgets in student loan debt. Or maybe not. Maybe you did the conservative one. We have two really hot articles right now, guys. There's the one about that I just said about how conservatives have a major problem. There's the other article about 18 states owing more in student loan debt than their entire state budgets. And by the way, oh geez, we're so busy these days. So last week we were featured on Fox News Radio, Yahoo News, Business Insider, and a few other outlets. Right now, today, we are looking for people who live in the state of Georgia, hopefully around Augusta, and also in the state of Ohio, hopefully northern Ohio, maybe northeast Ohio, like Cleveland, Akron, that sort of thing. If you want to be interviewed, send me an email, justice@studentloanjustice.org. I will forward it along to these news organizations. We are spreading the word about all these states that owe more in student loan debt than their entire state budgets. Georgia being number one, Ohio also being very high on that list. Well, good for you, Heather. Thank you for doing that. And, I have to give Heather a couple other shout outs too. Heather was temporarily banned on, I think, Twitter or Facebook. She was banned for overposting the link to our petition, or maybe overposting the link to that article I just described. That Heather Taylor just posted. You can read for yourself. It's jaw-dropping. It's breaking news. That is a badge of honor for you, Heather. If you happen to get banned on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or whatever because you're sharing our stuff too much, let me know. That is a merit badge. That is a badge of honor. Good for you, Heather. Hey, guys, we've gone way long tonight. We're at 30 minutes. I'm on a roll. If you can't tell, we're pretty busy these days. Things are going pretty well. We've got a big fight on our hands, though. The swamp is not going to lay down and die. They will not. So if anything, we have to work a little harder going forward. We are the pioneers. Here on this group. I kid you not. All that loan cancellation talk that we're hearing started here. The fact that bankruptcy was even in the presidential campaign was because of us. So, yeah, tell everybody you know about this group, about our petition, about both those articles that you can see in the comments here. If you're watching us on YouTube, I'm sorry, you need to jump onto our Facebook group. That's Facebook/groups/SLJ group. And with that, I will just say, guys, we're kicking ass. We need your help. We are as grassroots as it gets. Please do everything you can to push that petition, to get that article, in fact, both of those articles, to your local media and to state media, particularly if you live in one of those 18 states that are mentioned. And it's actually 18 states, by the way. It's not 19. That was my bad. I miscounted. But don't say anything. So come on, guys, we need your help. Nothing will happen until you own this problem. We need you. We can do nothing without you. And I don't mean your money. Donations are great. We do need a tiny amount of donations to make this pop stand go. But it's not about money or donations or nothing like that. Although you can go to studentloanjustice.org/support and donate, we do need it. It's about your actions. It's about your agency. We need the million people that are on our petition now, change.org/cancel student loans. We need them all to be calling their governors, particularly if they live in one of those 18 states, spreading the word about the petition, spreading the word about those articles. Those are the three things that really count right now and will win this battle for us. If everybody on our group got 2 people to sign the petition, we would have 3 million signatures on that petition, like tomorrow. I think we may break 1 million tonight, by the way. So I think we're like 995,000 as we speak. Heather, you make a good point. There's a lot of those states that they may not be at over 100% of their state budget, but they're like stuck around 97%, maybe 93% or something. So there's there's only 2 states that I would say are reasonable, and that's like Hawaii and Alaska, and that's just because they have huge state budgets. And Heather, you're right. We need more than 1 million signatures on our petition, guys. We could and should have 55 million signatures. We should be breaking every record ever set at change.org for this number of signatures on this petition. So, guys, it all starts with you. Do everything you can. Rewind this video if you need a few things. I think I'm barking orders like every minute and a half. I don't mean to do that. Do whatever you think is best. there's a million things I've suggested tonight, or there's a million things that I didn't suggest tonight that would help. Only you know what they are according to your own unique skills, talents, and abilities. But if you don't know what to do, just do a few of those things. That's like for sure the best way that we can bring all the tens of 20, 30 million people, that we can bring them together. There is true strength in numbers. And guys, we're kicking ass. Don't be put off by the, pardon my French, shit you see in the media right now. 90% of the media, it's against us. It just is. Bad people control a lot of the media. And don't allow yourself to be dismayed, discouraged, demoralized, demotivated by anything you read in the media, because it's all garbage. It is. All the rhetoric a year ago was 100% different from what it is today. We move the ball here. We need you. Put all that media nonsense out of your mind. We've got some very simple things that we all need to do. Rewind this tape if you need some suggestions. Act on your own as an army of one as you wish. Join your state chapter group. studentloanjustice.org/state_chapter. We've got 50 state chapters, including for expatriates, by the way, people outside the country, which Heather has so decently volunteered to step up and lead. But there's a million things. So with that, I hope I've given you some food for thought. I hope that you all are pretty stoked. This is a very long live stream. I do apologize for the length. Thank you, Heather. Let's get this done. Good luck. Godspeed. God bless everybody.